Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. We will do our best tonight to keep things on track. We have had some computer issues just before signing on live with you here. So I'm not sure if all of the material that I spent the afternoon compiling is going to be readily available, but I'll muddle through and somehow we'll get through it together. Benjamin Netenyahu, fallout from his speech at the United Nations. Trump saying he is going to ban Israel from annexing Gaza. In the past, 24 hours, we've seen Trump do sort of 180-degree loop-de-loop turns on policy with regard to Gaza and Ukraine. We just don't know what's coming next. I'm not sure he knows what is coming next. So we have all of that. We have the crazy ostrich farm stuff to talk about a little bit more tonight. We have, what else? The economy and an exchange in the House of Commons. So U.S., Canadian, global news, not like global TV news. I mean, news from all over the world tonight, right here on Maverick News, where the world is watching.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Let's start digging into it. And I should also tell you that we do have an installment of Maverick MidKnight Matinee tonight. Feature is going to be, I would have people guess. I know people like to do that, but I put it in the description tonight so people would just cheat, or maybe already know. It is going to be Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, Crash of the Moons. It's an oldie but a goodie with the campiest special effects ever. I think you're going to love it. It's just got this unique charm to it, and there is so much that's relevant about it even today, as we always try to, connect these old movies and television shows that we bring you, and even radio serials, to current day, to show you how they were sort of foreshadowing what was to come, what has come in many cases. Yesterday's science fiction, today's science reality. So such is the case with some aspects. Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, Crash of the Moons coming up right at the tail end of tonight's Maverick News broadcast. And we're going to kick things off with the subject matter that is probably the most divisive in the world: Israel Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu, really not well liked right now by many countries around the world. I think about 170 countries, could be wrong on the number, already recognize Palestine as a state, a nation's a state, sort of. Anyway, Canada, the UK, they've come on board. They're now recognizing Palestine as a state as well. We've told you about that. Benjamin Netanyahu not happy about it, speaking at the UN. And this is what's going on Twitter as a result of his speech at the UN. Dozens of diplomats from over 50 countries walked out during his UN speech. Now, this was really yesterday, but the fallout's still happening. I can tell you, too, that this is the hottest story on maybe around the world tonight still, and certainly on social media, where today, at the last time I checked, 477,000 posts on this, regarding this, on X. And this says here, delegates from more than 50 countries, including Colombia, Iran, South Africa, exited the UN General Assembly Hall as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu began his address on Israel's conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. Netanyahu accused the UN of bias against Israel and announced that his speech was broadcast to Gaza residents via commandeered mobile networks and border loudspeakers, urging Hamas to release hostages. He detailed Israeli military actions against Hamas, Hezbollah, and other groups, while the U.S. ambassador remained seated in support. Here's a clip from what he said.
What, did the Nazis ask the Jews to leave, kindly leave, go out? Did others, you want me to name all the genocidal leaders of history? Just go one by one. Did anyone do this? Did they say, get out so we can come in? Of course not. What did the...
So he's saying Israel has to finish the job of clearing out, getting rid of Hamas in Gaza. And that's why he has been very critical of Mark Carney for recognizing Palestine. Bear with me here while I try to get these clips queued up. As I say, we've had some technical glitches. I won't bore you with the details as to why, but we kind of had things run off the rails. Here's what it looked like when the diplomats walked out on Netanyahu. Not all of them, but a big portion.
The speech, we will listen to it here, and we'll have analysis for you on the other side. Some in the crowd there that was motivated.
Order in the hall.
And he will take the speech, we will listen to it here, and we'll have analysis for you on the other side.
Please, order in the hall. Please order in the hall.
All right, what you're seeing here is the big walkout from the UN General Assembly, Sandra, because this actually has happened before to Prime Minister Netanyahu. You can see that the applause is coming from the Israelis as they sit there and watch these individuals decide that they can't sit and listen to a speech.
Yeah, and trying to get order as Benjamin Netanyahu looks ready to deliver his speech. He is watching on.
So you can see that we have not just division within our own country, or say in Gaza between Israel and Palestine, Lebanon. We have division around the world. And this is clearly the hot button issue, even more so than Ukraine. So it really highlights the division. I am kind of behind the eight ball here, and things are a little bit jumbled. So just give me a moment. I'm going to come back, and hopefully on the other side of this one, we'll have things a little bit better organized after having the computers completely shut down like 5 minutes before we went live. So hang on. I'll be right back.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, so as a result of that, Trump says now that he will not allow Netanyahu to annex the West Bank. So if I misspoke a little bit earlier, that's what the quote is. And we have him speaking about this. He says that, and this was one of his meeting with reporters in the White House after the address to the UN by Netanyahu. He says, "I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. It's not going to happen." Trump is also going to meet Netanyahu on Monday, we are told. Oh, hang on. I had the clip, but I need to wait just a moment. We'll accuse. My apologies again. Everything has to be reset. Okay. Hang on. Here we go. Here's Trump on the West Bank.
We have great relationships with a lot of countries, and you may be even more happy when you find out, because we spoke with Bibi Netanyahu today, and we spoke to all the leaders in the Middle East. who are great people, and we're getting pretty close to having a deal on Gaza, and maybe even peace, which would be the first time in about, what, 2,000 years? I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this directly?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay?
So those are strong words. And this was, what was it, just 2 days ago? When he said that he stands with Israel? It was when he was with Zelensky. And he said that he stands with Israel. He said, I really have all my life, really. So strong words there. Now you get this. It's like what a difference a day makes in Trump world. It's amazing how you just never know what you are going to get with him. But of course, with Trump, he chooses his words not for the same reasons other leaders do. Often, I think what he does is he chooses his words for political reasons that are not immediately apparent. So, for instance, in the case of Ukraine, when he did his pivot saying that he now thinks Ukraine could win back all of the territory it has lost, I'm not so sure that that's a universal message, but it might be more aimed at some of the supporters within the U.S. government, other politicians that he needs support from in order to appease them, at least for a moment, in order to maybe buy time, stretch things out, in order to get what he wants, or to then pivot back to whatever position he really believes in. So he's strategic in that way, in ways that sometimes make him look a little bit unstable. If, for lack of a better word right now, he's very unpredictable. I think that when it comes to the economy, that's not a good thing. And we have been seeing a lot of concerns about that too. Here, I have to get this queued up for you. In the House of Commons in Canada today, we saw an exchange back and forth on the economy, the upcoming budget, and report. This report that came out on the deficit, which has been of serious concern. Again, I need just a moment to get this queued. Here we go. Okay. All right, let's go. We'll pick up question period right off the top, and I may pause to zoom ahead to a relevant section. We'll see how she goes off the top. Here we go. Question period, House of Commons, Canada.
Oral questions. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Minister of Public Safety behaved like a true liberal this week. He said one thing in private and the opposite in public. In a shocking recording taken without his knowledge, the minister admitted that the gun buyback program is not worth the money spent on it, that it will not be effective in preventing crime, and that it is designed to score political points in Quebec. But, like a good liberal, he went ahead with his costly, awful program for honest hunters anyway. As he's been deceiving Canadians, gun crimes have increased by 130% under this Liberal regime. Will this Prime Minister finally fire the Minister of Public Safety? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Thank you for the question.
And I want to take this opportunity to talk about our compensation program that we launched this week. As you know, Cape Breton will be the pilot where we launch this program. People can register starting on October the 1st. We are making sure that those prohibited weapons are off our streets, but at the same time ensuring that law-abiding gun owners are able to get fair compensation for turning in or deactivating their prohibited weapon, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable, Lotbinière. Well, I welcome the minister to read this morning's papers. In Le Devoir this morning, they reported the Minister of Public Safety has just done an excellent job of joining the ranks of those who are failing in their duties. The Ontario Attorney General's office was quite harsh, saying the firearms buyback program does nothing to address the root causes of gun violence in our communities. That's what the Minister of Public Safety himself thinks deep down. He said so in a recording, Madam Speaker, after being caught red-handed telling the truth, which in itself is a true scandal for a Liberal, and doing nothing about the rise in crime in the country. What is the Prime Minister waiting for to fire him? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Public Safety is fulfilling our election commitments. On this side of the House, we have always tried to make it impossible to use assault-style weapons on our streets. There have been tragedies throughout Canada. Canadians cannot support the possibility that people can access assault weapons. Hunters have told us that they don't need those weapons for hunting. But in this debate, Conservatives have always been against that.
Public Safety Minister says the Liberal gun buyback program is...
Okay, we've been down this road, so we're going to sort of pull out of that for the moment. Let's shift into the economy now, as I previously cued for you. And here we go. This is exchange on housing, groceries, cost of living.
To ensure that Canada Post remains viable.
Thousand Islands.
Oh yeah, Canada Post.
I recently spoke with a young father in Spencerville, and he has a trade, he has a job, and he has a young family, but he still has to count on a productive deer hunt this fall in order to provide a high-protein diet for his family. Now, why? The inflationary policies of this Liberal Prime Minister continue to drive the prices of food at the grocery store higher and higher. Why can't this Prime Minister see that his policies are making things worse for Canadians who are just trying to get by?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I have some good news for my colleagues. I respect him a lot, but I don't think he's been seeing the evolution of the Canadian economy, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I have some good news for the member. The Canadian economy is growing, Madam Speaker. I think he should be thanking the plan of this government, Madam Speaker, to make sure that we can grow the economy. We invest in the future, and on the budget in November 4th. I know the Conservatives are waiting for November 4th.
Can we have some order to listen to what the Minister is saying? The Honourable Minister has 5 seconds to finish.
Madam Speaker, you know when it's good news, the Conservatives don't want to hear it, but Canadians sure want to hear about good news.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
We're not going to join the finance minister in patting himself on the back while millions of Canadians are lined up at food banks. Let's talk about the economy. GDP shrank in Q2. The finance minister should know that. But we haven't seen a budget from him, but we've seen all of the warning signals. And so has the parliamentary budget officer, who said that it's very alarming what's happening and that something is going to break. But it's already broken for Canadians. They can't afford to feed themselves, feed their families. They're worried about the cold coming and not being able to heat their homes. It's the policies of this Liberal Prime Minister that are vaporizing any supposed savings that they're going to have from tax cuts. Why won't they?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I know the Conservatives are eager to see the budget and hopefully vote for it because, Madam Speaker, indeed, we need to change course in this country. We need to spend less so we can invest more, Madam Speaker. That's what we're proposing to Canadian, generational investment in our future, Madam Speaker, to make sure that we build the most resilient economy in the G7, that we build jobs across this country, Madam Speaker, that we build the future that our children are wanting for this nation, Madam Speaker. The Conservatives should be rejoicing, Madam Speaker, that they have a government on this side that thinks about all Canadians and will grow this economy.
The Honourable Member for
Budget officer projects $68.5 billion.
Speaker, I don't know what the minister's rejoicing about because prices are skyrocketing, food banks are overwhelmed, and families are skipping meals. Meanwhile, the parliamentary budget officer called this government's finances, quote, shocking, quote, unsustainable, and warned, quote, something is going to break. Every dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. When will this Prime Minister stop his money printing deficits that drive inflation and admit that his broken promises have left Canadians hungry?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I don't know what the Conservative are reading or listening, but they should be listening to the good news that we have. The economy grew in July, Madam Speaker. They should be rejoicing. I'm sure they're going to put that in the householders to tell their constituents that the plan of this Liberal government is working, Madam Speaker. And I'm sure they're going to talk about the November 4th budget, Madam Speaker. I can even send them some great infographics to inform their constituents. We lower tax for Canadians. We made sure we removed GST for first-time home buyer. We removed the carbon tax, Madam Speaker. There's so many good news they can put in the householder. I'm going to...
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Madam Speaker, it seems that the only thing new about this government is the way that they avoid responsibility. Yesterday, the parliamentary budget officer said, and I quote, as anyone who's managed a household budget knows, at the end of the month, when you don't have enough money to pay your bills, something is going to break. Well, let me tell you what's breaking. It's the morale of families who are going hungry. Beef up 33%, soup up 26%, grapes up 24%, and a projected 4 million visits to Toronto food banks. The Prime Minister claimed to be an economic expert, yet his broken promises had doubled the deficit and driven up food prices. When will he admit his fiscal failures are starving families of hope?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the economy is growing, and we saw the last numbers, the GDP growing in July, and meanwhile interest rates are being lowered. So good news. Meanwhile, my colleagues should know, because many Conservative voters agree with it, we cut taxes on the middle class. We were able also to cut taxes on first-time homebuyers, and we also cut the carbon tax. So since so many Conservative voters are in favor, and so many, of course, of voters in general, please just support the government's agenda. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Keep it the program. I don't think so.
The parliamentary budget officer called our finances, quote, very alarming, shocking, unsustainable. He warned, quote, if you don't change, something will break. And it already has. Every dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends is coming straight out of Canadians' pockets, wrecking our finances and driving up the cost of food. He said he would be judged by the grocery prices. Well, Canadians are being crushed at the checkout. Will this Prime Minister end patting himself in the back and end his reckless spending by doubling the deficit, or will he keep punishing families for his failed...
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the members opposite are quick to point to government spending as a cause of food inflation, but the Bank of Canada cut the interest rates last week because they actually understand economics. We are focused on affordability every day. That's why we cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. That's why we are massively increasing the supply of homes. And that's why we're building major projects that are going to create tens of thousands of good jobs for Canadians. Canadians voted for solutions, Mr. Speaker, not Conservative slogans.
Okay. Enough of that. Let's take a real short one, come back on the other side, where we'll continue with tonight's antivirus program for your mind.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So let's do a little Donald Trump Truth Social scroll to find out what the world of Donald is like tonight. His world bleeds into ours. And I don't mean like hours time. I mean like our world, my world, your world, the world. Is he really the leader of the free world or the whole world? He says he rules the world. Oh, he had this flyby. I have to admit, I like a good flyover. I like airplanes, especially fighter jets. I just think they look sleek and cool and beautiful, even though they're lethal. What else we got going on? Another angle.
Well, if there was ever a stage for a comeback, it was just set. The flyover by the Super Hornets, witnessed by the president.
Hey. Okay, what else? What else we got going on here on Donald's Truth Social account? 3 angles on the flyover. He likes flyovers too, I guess. Mortgage fraud at the Fed. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Secretary Lutnick, Secretary Besson, and I are working on some options. Ultimately, it will be up to the president. You may remember that the president turned down an offer to basically have the company sold for $100+ billion. Today, I believe that valuation's $500 to $700 billion, maybe even eventually up towards $1 trillion. So President Trump made the right decision in the first term to say no, thank you. I think it will be very oversubscribed if and when the president decides to do something. It'll be the biggest IPO in history. And Secretary Besson is right. We want interest rates to come down. You know, since the president has come into office, he's lowered mortgage rates. You can see, you know, when he started out, it's already down. And then on top of that, Maria, refinancings are through the roof. So President Trump has really been able to get this housing market off of the ground, which it was basically dead. Biden had killed the housing market, and slowly but surely we're resuscitating it. And I'm very confident that we're going to get this housing market back and booming in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I get some of those charts and hold things up too? Yeah, they were the flyover was at the Ryder Cup. And here he is again going after Tylenol. Pregnant women, don't use Tylenol unless absolutely necessary. Don't give Tylenol to your young child for virtually any reason. Break up the MMR shot into 3 totally separate shots, not mixed. Take chicken pox P shot separately. Take hepatitis B shot at 12 years old or older. And importantly, take vaccine in 5 separate medical visits. President DJT. That's right, Donald, don't forget to promote the COVID vaccine because it's safe and effective. He's the father of the vax. There he is. And 57% of Americans approve of the father of the vaccine. Let us not forget who gave us that. President Trump, the president of peace. President Trump ended 7 wars in 7 months. Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, DRC and Rwanda, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and or should I pronounce it the way that he did? Oh my, I can't pronounce it the way he did. Azerbaijan. He kind of messed it up the other day when he was trying to show everyone what a great peace president he is, talking about all the wars he's ended, and then couldn't pronounce the names of those two countries, or at least Azerbaijan he couldn't. That was funny. And then Jon Stewart did use that as ammunition for humor in his monologue the other night when he was commenting on Jimmy Kimmel, who, by the way, I see is returning to all the stations owned by Sinclair Broadcasting in the U.S. Interesting. What people in Canada, I don't think, realize is, and people in the United States as well, is just one of those big broadcasting companies which owns a lot of affiliate stations for networks like ABC. Just one of those companies, generally speaking, is much larger than even a network like CTV or Global or even the CBC. That's why I was going to the States at the end when I was doing my automotive program. I was working with stations in the United States and beaming the program back into Canada rather than running it on the Canadian networks up here. Because I kind of got the Canadian market by default, because the stations that we were on came back into the Canadian market. And it was a very unique thing to do. No other independent producers. I was speaking to lawyers who deal with the copyright issues and so on that represented us at the time. And, they said, nobody's doing this the way you're doing it. And I said, that's because I'm a maverick. And we do things differently. And indeed, I did when I was doing all of that. They called actually about 2 months ago asking if we would come back or I would come back. And I said, nope, not right now. No freaking way. Are you kidding me with all the tariff talk and all of the stuff going on out there? Way too much uncertainty. So sorry, not right now. Very unfortunate, because so much in the auto industry is still not back to the levels of prosperity that we've seen in the past. And that is because of largely the uncertainty surrounding the tariffs and the Trump economic policies. I've been talking to people in the auto industry, both on the manufacturing and the marketing and retail sides as well. And the retail stuff, I think, is still humming along, but there has been some pullback. And certainly on the marketing side, the entire industry in Canada is entirely different now. The auto companies don't spend money on marketing the way they used to. They certainly don't use auto shows the way they used to. Now they largely do a lot of their own sort of automotive presentations and then live stream them. They sort of organize their own events and then turn them into online spectacles, online events. The approach is quite a bit different, and it has had a big impact on the way on the automotive marketing sector. So maybe we'll talk about that more another night. I can tell you too that I've experienced just in the last couple of weeks really serious signs that the economy, both in the United States and in Canada, is heading for a slowdown. In fact, we're already there, because I've had some clients for my little, media business that I run to help pay the bills here, pull back on stuff, and people are canceling things. And I've been talking to people in the financial industry too. And yeah, there's a shift going on. It feels very much like it did, say, in 2008, which should be very concerning for people. And again, it isn't just because of the true conditions of the economy at the moment. It's concern, uncertainty that is driving people to, hold on to their wallets, stop spending, cut costs. It's definitely happening. Although I can tell you too that there has been a little bit of work that has come in here for me, doing some online work, digital work for companies who are trying to do some different things, different approaches, because things are changing. So maybe we'll elaborate on that in the nights ahead as well. We'll see. We will see. See, Benjamin Netanyahu, he has charts. That guy on Fox has charts that look like Trump charts, who has charts, and Benjamin Netanyahu has charts. I feel kind of left out. Here it is. Look at his charts. We need to get some Maverick charts. Just saying. Trump looks real official when he has his charts. What else do we have on the Truth Social feed with Trump? We can't go back too far. We're going to get into old stuff. One day ago. Yeah, he met with Turkish President Erdogan at the White House. Showed you that. Oh, these guys were marching around in the middle of the night. The Marine Corps Silent Drill Platoon. They were marching out on the lawn around the White House the other night. And he invited them all in. That was kind of cool. And what do you think? He says, there's President Trump's White House. His most recent renovation is complete. The Palm Room. What do you think? Can you see that okay? It's a little bit small. Well, it's got marble. But the UN building doesn't. At least I think that's marble. Is that real marble? I think so. He wouldn't cheap out, would he? Not after making such a big deal out of the whole thing at the UN. You should have hired me to renovate the UN building. It should have been my contract. What a strange speech that was the other day. Oh, and then this was strange too. He took down Biden's picture in the hall of the presidents and puts up the auto pen. Here's the Fox News report.
House is unveiling a presidential walk of fame featuring portraits of U.S. presidents, with the exception of former President Joe Biden. The new display just outside the Oval Office along the colonnade there shows a framed photo of an auto pen writing Biden's signature in place of the former president's portrait. The White House released a photo today of President Trump looking at the...
It's just so petty. It's just so childish, these guys. They just fight and claw each other's eyes out. Oh, my God. And we all pay the price, don't we? So here's, as all this stuff is going on in Ukraine, and Trump pivots on that, and then you have everything going on in Gaza and his comments on, I will not let them annex the West Bank. We still have this big buildup going on around Venezuela. What is all that going to look like in the next week or two or whatever? Where's it going? I'm not sure. Depends on who you talk to. It's making me feel very uncomfortable. I don't like it, to be quite frank with you. That's me editorializing. Boat strikes warships in Venezuela. Rhetoric raised questions about Trump's goals. This is Associated Press. And he has, what's that in his hands? A chart. I need charts. It's chart night. President Trump has dispatched that fleet of American warships into the waters off Venezuela, bragged about fatal strikes on alleged drug boats, and claimed Venezuela will pay an incalculable price if it won't accept more people deported from the U.S. Yeah, he's killed people. That is true. That is, I'm certain, real. Not fake, not an imaginary thing, not AI, as some people have suggested. It did happen. So you've got real people who are really dead because of these strikes on these boats. The mighty U.S. Navy just blowing them out of the water. Well, they're calling them speed boats. Fishing boats really is kind of what they are, with multiple outboard motors on them. You've seen the video. Where is it going? It depends on who you talk to. Some say the whole drug cartel thing is a pretext, an excuse for the military buildup, and potentially an invasion of Venezuela. Although when you scroll down and look at this AP article on this, they are quoting a military expert here who says that invading Venezuela, not practical given the level of buildup that the U.S. Is conducting around Venezuela at this time. If regime change through invasion is the goal, they don't have enough manpower, people power, or whatever to achieve that. They've got a lot of firepower down there, though. A lot of ships, even submarines. So hard to say. Certainly, they're exerting pressure, and it's pretty clear that they do want regime change. They want Maduro gone. Trump has wanted Maduro gone for a long time. And they have, I think, some support from the international community because of Maduro being accused of sort of stealing the last election. Where have we heard that kind of rhetoric before? Oh, yeah, the United States. Yeah. Now, there's this story, viewer discretion advised, and also people who are listening on the podcast. You might want to cover your ears if you're sensitive in any way, because this is kind of disturbing. Let me see if I've got it queued here, if I didn't lose the tabs. This guy, Lawrence Krauss. What a creepy story. Are you ready? Okay, if you don't want to hear this creepy story about a murder, you might want to cover your ears, but everybody's glued to their screen and their speakers now, or their headphones. So this guy, Lawrence Krauss, admitted to killing and burying his parents 8 years ago in the backyard of their upstate New York home. He was participating in a television interview earlier this week, and then because he confessed on camera, he was arrested as he was leaving the television studio. So he contacted this television station, CBS 6, and then he sat there and took part in a half-hour interview during which he described the deaths as mercy killings for his two aging and ailing parents. This interview by Greg Floyd, who is the news anchor, or one of the news anchors at this television station. He says they knew that this was it for them, that they were perishing at your hand. And this guy, this Krauss, he says, yes, and it was so quick. I did my duty to my parents. My concern for their misery was paramount. So he brought a document that he had written with him. Some describe it as something like a manifesto or whatever. This was an exclusive interview on this television station. Now it's making national headlines because it is so disturbing, so bizarre. I've got the clip. I'm going to show you on Twitter what's going on with it. Here we go. So there's lots of stuff about it tonight. Lawrence Krauss confesses to killing parents in Albany. I did it, says a former fringe presidential candidate from upstate New York, confessed to murdering his parents. Lawrence Krauss, 53, admitted to suffocating fringe presidential candidate. Wow. And to suffocating Franz and Teresa Krauss in 2017 as part of mercy killings during a lengthy sit-down interview with the capital city CBS affiliate Thursday. So the station has posted this video, or some of it, this interview, and there's going to be more about this in the days to come. Wow, look at all the hashtags. They really want clicks. So there's a headline in a newspaper as a result of the interview. CBS 6, there's a picture of the guy right there in the interview with the news anchor in Albany, New York. Let's see if we can get you the clip. Here we go. I think this is it.
But that's not in the statement. And I think it's important for people to know what happened to your parents.
Right.
They were your parents. You loved them. They were deteriorating. What did you do?
I will.
Don't tell me you're going to leave it to the statement, because it's not in the statement.
I know.
What did you do to your parents?
My goal is for the American people to recognize that there's 40 million boomers. They're all going to go through the same kind of problems. It affects all of us, and we need to widen up the law so that people can deal with these kind of problems in a humane way, in whatever way that people can deal with. And I did my duty to my parents.
So you ended their life. But that's not in the statement. And I think
so. What I'm hearing there is that he was putting them down. He was committing an act of euthanasia in his mind. And this is their murder. In Canada, of course, with MAID, medical assistance in dying, you can get it from the state. You can get a doctor to do what Lawrence Krauss did to his parents. And there I am saying it's creepy, because it is. Wow. So he buried them outside. Now, this is really weird, because this wasn't in the story that I heard, but I guess he was arrested outside Channel 13 sister station in Albany after confessing to strangling his parents in 2017. Yeah. Okay. No, that's right. Because it was years ago. So what else am I seeing on social media here tonight? So that's okay. CBS 6. I think they probably have more than one station at that location. That's why you're seeing the two different designations for what channel it is. That isn't that unusual. 13 WHAM, WHAM, or CBS 6. Yeah, outside Wham's sister station. So that's CBS 6. They own an ABC and a CBS affiliate together, one company. Not uncommon. And there you go. So that's a kind of a creepy one. Definitely. We'll see where that goes. So, as we see all this stuff going on in Venezuela, and then we see Russia probing and testing airspace over NATO countries. We also see Hegseth ramping up, getting ready for this big meeting next week with these generals, ordering hundreds of generals to Virginia to discuss grooming standards and his warrior ethos vision, is what we're learning here tonight. A lot of speculation when we heard this meeting was being called, but now we're getting some more information about what it's supposed to be about. He's going to discuss grooming standards and his warrior ethos vision. And it has sparked, shall we say, confusion among military leaders all around the world. So this is a secretive meeting, and it's supposed to serve as a kind of pep rally, we're told, where Hegseth focuses on conduct and expectations for military leadership. This coming from 3 military officials and a congressional aide familiar with the planning for this meeting. And almost every general and admiral in the U.S. military, including many from global commands, will need to show up Tuesday at the military base in Quantico, Virginia. Something doesn't seem right. It's one of the only times anything like this has ever happened. Maybe the only time. So he wants to talk about how everybody needs to row in the same direction or face career consequences. This, according to one of the military officials, quoted by, in this case, Politico, was granted an anonymity to discuss internal planning. Don't know. I think maybe they're lying about what this is really about. That's my take on it. This seems too stupid to be true. Okay, everybody from all over the world, be here Tuesday in person so we can discuss grooming and the warrior ethos. No way. Okay, I'm giving you my opinion. I think it's not true. I think it's all a cover for what they're really going to be talking about, whatever that is, which might be us sitting on the verge of World War III, since Putin, just in the past couple of days, and, more accurately, Sergei Lavrov, foreign minister from Russia, saying that Russia is effectively at war with NATO. And I think that there's some truth to that, because you're seeing attacks inside Russia and have been for quite a while. They're taking a lot of the productivity out of the oil refineries in Russia. They're putting a real dent into the energy industry there and hurting the economy in Russia substantially. I think, and again, I'm editorializing, forgive me, I think that Russia is in more trouble than anybody really knows. They're struggling. They're having more difficulty than anybody knows. Not to say they're down and out or anything like that, but these attacks inside Russian territory by Ukraine using weapons from the West and some of their own now, drones and these Flamingo cruise missiles. Yeah, Russia's got a problem. And I saw also over the last 24 hours, Russia, a bunch of Russian troops got into real trouble. They were basically encircled and taken out, about 7,000 of them. I think because Russia is relying on, some poorly trained, loosely trained, quickly trained troops that they're kind of throwing into the mix, because I think both sides are having trouble recruiting people, but Russia also, and in some cases they're sending troops to the front lacking combat experience, maybe not fully prepared for what's coming, maybe not motivated as much as they should be. And you have highly motivated troops on the Ukrainian side, and with US and EU or NATO advice and strategy sessions taking place, they're coming up with plans and intelligence, through intelligence, coming up with ways to push back in fairly effective ways. We've seen that in the last 24 hours. 7,000, and it was not good for the Russians in that particular case, and the Ukrainians losing a lot too at certain points. But Russia not really making the kinds of gains that Putin promised. And now, over 3.5 years in to this special military operation, which is clearly a war, it's escalating, and it makes me very, very nervous, especially if Russia does end up going to war, or NATO goes to war in a really formal way with Russia. I think some people are just itching to launch some of those tactical nukes. Let's all pray that that doesn't happen. Because if they let that genie out of the bottle, I don't know. I don't know if they can contain it. Okay, let's take a little break, come back. We'll talk about those crazy ostriches.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. So the standoff builds, the drama builds in Edgewood, British Columbia, where the great ostrich standoff is ongoing, as the Canadian Food Inspection Agency remains on scene, now putting up black plastic or whatever barriers to conceal the area. There was another fire in the hay bales overnight, another one. Draw your own conclusion on that. Spontaneous combustion, maybe. On both occasions, both counts, maybe. Arson, maybe. How would they do it? Well, there are lots of ways that could have been done. Fortunately, no birds were injured in the making of that protest, nor were any humans, fortunately. Or in the videos, which are abounding, CFIA cutting the feeds from the security cameras that are on site, placed all over the place by the property owners and the protesters, who have clearly established a strategy of televising or broadcasting through the World Wide Web all over the world as many of the gory details of the cull as they can, if they can. And it's looking like it's gonna happen, in spite of the huge wave of protests that is happening, not just at the farm, but online. There's an absolute coordinated information campaign going on to support this ostrich movement. But I have noticed, well, I said yesterday that any opposing voices have pretty much been suppressed, or they're being suppressed online. Not exactly clear why. I can only speculate, but I did notice today that there were more dissenting voices, or voices in favor of culling the birds, being thrown into the mix on my feed anyway. So the algorithm was a little more balanced, but still, very much favoring the save our ostriches narrative. There's a lot pushing that narrative. There's a lot behind it. But today, CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, updating the situation from their perspective, releasing the statement. And this is a mystery. We have a mystery on our hands here, folks, because what we're dealing with is the case of the missing ostriches. So they say here, consistent with the interim stay order of the Supreme Court of Canada issued on September 24th, 2025, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the CFIA, is maintaining its presence in Edgewood, British Columbia, and has custody of the ostriches on the farm. So they're not killing them, but they have control of the farm now. They have control of the birds, but the cull is on pause. So the CFIA, here's the current status, will continue to provide appropriate feed and water to the ostriches under CFIA veterinary oversight. The CFIA will be using feed provided by the ostrich farm's regular supplier once it is delivered. So, contrary to claims by certain podcasters or influencers on the ostrich side yesterday that the CFIA is out there torturing the ostriches, they say otherwise. You can believe what you want to believe. The CFIA, it says here, has completed an initial count of the ostriches and determined that there are between 300 and 330 on the premises. Excuse me, wait a minute. Between 300 and 330 on the premises? I thought there were like 400 or 398 because 2 were told were shot. mysteriously. So what happened to the other ostriches? Where did they go? What has happened to them? It says there will be ongoing efforts to determine a more precise number. The CFIA also identified an ostrich with compromised health on the premises. CFIA is consulting the owners about any pre-existing treatment plans that they have with their private veterinarian. I'm still perplexed. What happened to the missing ostriches? As the farm remains under CFIA control, individuals at the farm should continue to be aware of subsection 35(1) of the Health of Animals Act, which makes it an offense to obstruct or hinder an analyst, inspector, or officer who is performing duties or functions under this act or the regulations. There are potential animal and human health risks associated with the ongoing delay in implementing disease response measures at Universal Ostrich Farms, including destruction of the infected and exposed ostriches and decontamination of the infected and exposed environment. And then they talk about evolving science, underscores urgency of the action. They talk here, they say, following the confirmation of the presence of H5N1 in the herd of ostriches using polymerase chain reaction testing, that's PCR testing. Oh, but that's not valid, Rick. That doesn't work. It's not true. It's all fake. Yeah, but they, as I've been telling people, they went beyond that. The National Center for Foreign Animal Disease laboratory in Winnipeg isolated the virus and complete whole genome sequencing. It wasn't just one of those quickie PCR tests on scene. They took samples from 3 of the birds and then sent them to a lab for further analysis. And it says so right here. And I've been telling people this for quite a while because I dug into this in depth, spoke to a lot of people, made phone calls, really dug. I was pretty thorough in the investigation that I conducted into this one because there was a lot of meat on the bone. Additional laboratory analysis of the original samples, not just a PCR test. They went far beyond that. Has determined that current HPAI infection in these ostriches is a novel reassortment not seen elsewhere in Canada. This assortment includes the D13 genotype, which has been associated with a human infection in a poultry worker in Ohio. We talked about that. And then people have tried to dismiss that or downplay it, but it happened, and it's real, and it's a thing. The laboratory analysis also found this novel reassortment event has enhanced the pathogenicity of this particular H5N1 genotype. Even minimal quantities of the virus could be lethal, with a rapid time to death of 4 to 5 days in mice exposed to even low doses. Now, that's not to say that it's lethal to humans, but it's very lethal to certain kinds of animals, in particular chickens. And they're also beginning to find, just as a note, the bird flu in cattle and in samples of milk, which they are now concerned about and are making sure, I guess, that pasteurization will kill it before it goes to market. So they're taking steps on both sides of the border, Canada, USA, to address that concern. I don't know where that stands at the moment, but we should be concerned about it. I don't want to drink bird flu infected milk. So it's spreading. It's a problem. Genomic epidemiology analysis traced the spread of genotype D13 and demonstrated that the samples collected at the farm are direct genetic ancestors of those collected in Ohio and Missouri in late 2024. This analysis therefore showed strong statistical support for inferred migration of genotype D13 viruses from the UOF to both Ohio and Missouri. And the stamping out policy aims to protect human health, animal health, and international trade access. It says here, this is interesting too, and maybe important. Canada's animal health status is an essential element of agricultural exports to the national economy. Our stamping out policy for highly pathogenic avian influenza plays a critical role in animal disease control and preparedness. Under the stamping out policy, all of the birds on infected or exposed premises are depopulated. There is no post-detection testing of exposed birds to exclude individual birds to exclude them from depopulation. The application of the stamping out policy for this farm has been upheld by the Federal Court of Canada and the Federal Court of Appeal and is supported by scientific evidence. That's why the farm lost when they went to court, because they did not produce any studies that stood up to any kind of scrutiny in court. Because while they're making all these claims, and we keep hearing them, and people are believing it just because it's being said, that the ostriches are going to save humanity or something because they have these antibodies, in reality, the farm has not done any real research into bird flu and ostrich antibodies. All their research was really focused around COVID and the production of these masks that they were going to infuse with the ostrich antibodies. And I don't know if you saw the interview, but I even called, they tried to get a contract with a company in Canada that during the pandemic was producing masks to wear. And they wanted to, they got an intent to purchase, but the deal never actually was finalized, because I called the guy who was one of the executives with the company. I had him on the show. I did an interview with him by telephone. I shared that with people. And he said also that the reason they didn't pursue, the reason that the contract wasn't fulfilled was because they couldn't produce the studies to back it up. And so they couldn't sell these things because there was no science to back it up. In the end, that's what it came down to. So no deal. They had an intent to purchase, but couldn't really deliver on the promise. It says our disease response here aims to protect both public and animal health, as well as minimize impacts on the $6.8 billion domestic poultry industry and the Canadian economy. This supports Canadian families and poultry farmers whose livelihoods depend on maintaining international market access for $1.75 billion in exports. And you see, part of this, that you might not like it, but in order to trade with other countries, they have standards in their countries that all the different countries that want to trade with each other have to meet. So there are standards for health and safety reasons. And if you don't meet those standards, you can't export. Even the United States has standards like that. And if they don't cull these birds, it's a violation of those standards. And you get, well, it's the World Health Organization, but it's not. It's about trade arrangements between this country and that Canada and, say, Britain, or I don't know all the countries where the birds poultry is exported to from Canada. The United States would be one of the big ones. But I'm not sure if, see, as much as RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz weighed in on it, if they don't meet the standard, I'm not sure that all the farms, not just the ostrich farm, but all the farms in that region might not be able to trade even with the United States in many states, because they wouldn't allow poultry from that whole geographic area they wouldn't allow it to be exported or imported into those markets. So you have to look at each individual market and see exactly what the regulations are on the trade and what the agreements are that are in place. But that's part of what's driving it. I might not like it. You might not like it, but that's the reality of international trade. And if you want to export your birds, your poultry, your chicken, as part of to grow your economy so that there are jobs on the farms, then you have to make these agreements with your trading partners and live with it. So that's part of what is going on. The other thing is, and if you want to, well, here's the other thing. All right, people messaging me like, Rick, you're You drank the Kool-Aid. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? This is why they've lost in court, and why they probably won't have their case heard by the Supreme Court, and why they probably will lose again if they do end up in the Supreme Court. Because right here, this was back in January, and this is from the CFIA. And while they were looking for exemptions to have these birds spared from culling, they were given opportunity to get an exemption. They had to fill out all this stuff. And if you listen to Katie, she'll give you one story, but at the end of the day, they just didn't meet the standard. And this is a whole explanation. This is from the 10th of January, 2025. And it lays out why and how they just didn't meet the criteria. All criteria listed in the distinct unit assessment must be adequately addressed in order to be granted an exemption from depopulation. The CFIA defines a distinct epidemiological unit as a group of animals on an infected premises that are separated from an infected susceptible population such that they are not considered exposed to the pathogenic agent after reviewing all the information provided, including but not limited to email communications from Universal Ostrich Inc., an on-site visit conducted by CFIA staff, as well as all communications for the purposes of completing the premises investigation questionnaire. We did not find that this proposed distinct unit adequately met the criteria for a distinct epidemiological unit, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. They didn't meet the standard. So sorry, but that's why they also were offering you compensation for your birds, which you refused to take, and you wanted to fight. And maybe you'll be further ahead financially rather than taking the compensation for those birds, but maybe not. Maybe you're further ahead because the money is rolling in. Tons of it. Lots of donations have been from, for a long time. And I see more people now since this latest ramp up of the wave of protest, more fundraisers. Derek Sloan out there weighing in on it. I got an email asking for a donation. And then I saw in what he wrote, he's like, Katie was arrested just for trying to feed the birds. That kind of narrative just makes me chuckle. That's not why she was arrested. She wasn't arrested for trying to feed the birds. She was arrested because they had a warrant to secure the property, the premises. They were ordered to leave the property so that they could get on with the business of culling the herd or getting ready to do it. And she wouldn't go. So her and her mom locked themselves in the pen, and it was a protest. And that's why she was arrested. So just be honest about it. You can agree or disagree, but don't lie. Well, you have to lie because if you don't lie, then people don't get so emotional about it. So stretch the truth because you can never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And people won't donate as much, or maybe they won't. It's actually kind of funny when you start to look at this. It is absurd, the level of this stuff is going to. And people are so emotional, but people care more about those damn birds than they do about human beings at this point. That's the sad reality of this, because they've been personified. They've been turned into, kind of like cartoon characters. They've been giving them names. Oh, and when I'm talking about the money rolling in, not only are they asking for donations, they've launched a meme coin to generate money, I guess. Apparently, that's what I'm hearing here. So here, look at this. This is, see if I can get it up full screen for you. I wasn't aware of this, but until today, here you go. All the people are concerned about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, being tracked through digital currencies. People who only want to use cash, they're out there, I guess, buying up meme coins. Launched a barn meme coin to create a small agribusiness.org. She says, regardless of outcome, we win. You can buy on Orca or something, and MetaMask or Phantom in your Chrome, blah, blah, blah. Let's reform policy. And so you can buy the meme coins. Yeah, or you can buy Donald Trump meme coins too. He makes lots of money, but the reason he makes so much money is because he has world leaders and political activists and others buying up his meme coins in order to curry favor with him so they get what they want politically. And we don't know how much money, it's billions from people all over the world, really, really super ultra wealthy, rich, crazy rich people buying up Trump cryptocurrency. And so he can line his pockets. And if he had that special dinner. If you bought his cryptocurrency, his meme coin, you got to come to a special dinner with the president. He's literally selling the presidency, turned it into a grift like no president before him ever has, and probably won't if there are any other presidents after him. He could be president forever. I mean, forever, especially if transhumanism really takes hold and he manages to get organ transplants. It gets jacked into the Internet of Things through Neuralink, and he becomes the president for eternity. Well, that's a true conspiracy, isn't it? But it could happen. It could. That could be tomorrow's science reality. Yeah, and then some people trying to tap into reality. So I'm kind of giving you the contrarian view on these ostriches a little bit here tonight to balance things out, because they've got this whole paid and somewhat organic in some cases campaign going on to save these birds. And we've presented both sides of it. And here's some more balance for you. John Addiskin, I guess, interesting that he says, all the talk about universal ostrich farm is about how the birds are for research, yet a quick Google search online indicates that they were, in fact, a large-scale producer of ostrich meat before the call. And that's true. They were selling the birds as food, not just human food, but they're also making pet food out of the ostriches. So that is true. And I also heard Katie on an interview last week talking about how these majestic, ancient, prehistoric, antibody-producing birds, these ostriches, are a great source of protein. And in my initial interviews with them, with her and her mom, they're quite open about it. They admitted that. They talked about how they were in the business of producing or raising the ostriches, keeping them alive for food production, which is what all these ostrich farms do. It's interesting to me to say that these ostrich farms, it's a very niche market. And so they do turn them into something, in many cases, like a tourist attraction, or even almost like petting zoos, but you shouldn't get too close to them because they can be lethal, or they can hurt you. They'll peck you to death. They're very strong, and you don't want to get them upset or get them scared. And so you can go to some of these farms, take your kids, have a day at the farm, start off in the morning, and get your picture taken, get a tour, find out what the ostriches are all about, learn about them, and then go eat them for lunch in the restaurant. Unlike the zoo, like a traditional zoo where you go in and they're trying to tell you that they're like a conservation type place. So if you go to like African lion safari, they'll tell you that it's like an animal preservation or conservation facility. So you don't go see the lions and then, they're slaughtering them out back and then feeding you lion burgers. But they do it at these ostrich farms. And if it's not the meat, it's the eggs. Even though those birds were injected with COVID antigens over and over and over again for experimentation and They turned them into lab animals during the pandemic, and they still sold those eggs. And maybe the meat too, from the lab animals. But anyway, just saying. And that's true because they talked about it on their Facebook page. But nobody wants to hear that. Very weird place. And here again, this was in 2025, September, Universal Ostrich Farms. Edgewood is a primary producer. This is an old one. Okay, this is yes. It's a Grok AI search. Primary producer of ostrich meat with vertical integration from breeding to processing. They're currently under a Supreme Court stay, halting a CFIA ordered cull of the 400 birds, which they keep saying over and over again. Where do those other 100 birds disappear to? There's a question. Due to avian flu concerns, general reports indicate other farms in the Okanagan Valley, Lower Mainland, and Vancouver Island, but specific names are not detailed in available sources. For buying, try delis like Jackson's Meat and Deli in Vancouver. That farm, not a small family operation, it has been a big agribusiness venture. You don't have 400 pet ostriches. Even if you just look at the economics, the financials, it makes no sense. What do you think it costs to take care of 400 ostriches? So we'll say 400 because they keep saying 400. Maybe they'll find the other 100 someplace between now and tomorrow. Pretty, I don't know. If they're that valuable, why are they not more careful about their accounting or their inventory control? They escaped it, 100 of them. Where did they go? I don't know. They just disappeared. Poof. The amazing disappearing ostriches. It costs about $500,000 a year to keep those things live. That's conservative. Then you've got the operational costs of the farm on top. This is not small time stuff. That farm still is kind of, except it's not really functional at the moment. It has been the largest ostrich farm in the country. It's a niche market, and they have supplied other farms across the country. Not all of them, but a lot of the ostrich inventory, the livestock. They've been in the business of providing ostriches to other farms. So that's been going on as well. So there's just so much to this. And I also uncovered in our investigation over many weeks that not only were they providing birds to other farms, you may recall I contacted the owner of a farm that took in some of these birds, and they were given a business opportunity. It appears not just to raise and slaughter these ostriches for food, but again, to inject them with COVID antigens so that they could be used for research and or production of eggs with COVID antibodies in them that are produced because it's an induction process induced through the injection of COVID antigens. They don't just produce COVID antibodies naturally. They produce them because they get injected with the antigen, and it stimulates the immune system in a way that they produce a COVID antibody that then becomes present in the eggs. That's what they were doing. But I think people just have it in their heads that these birds just run around and are naturally producing COVID antibodies. That is not the case at all. Now, you might think that's valuable research and that they were going to produce valuable things from that. Maybe they were, maybe they didn't. I just know that what they did do is they were producing these masks with COVID or antibodies from the ostriches and embedded in them, and hair tonic to make hair grow, and there was skin cream. That's what the antibodies were going into. And then they couldn't produce the masks in Canada. That company, by the way, that they had the intent to purchase with, that company ultimately went out of business because they had government contracts and they were, they were going gangbusters during the pandemic. But then after the pandemic kind of, got dialed down, the government contracts kind of went away. And when I interviewed the executive from the company, he indicated that they didn't have much choice. They had to shut it down. There just wasn't demand for the product anymore. And the COVID antibody infused masks just didn't pan out because the science was not there. So let's see what happens with the Supreme Court challenge. They have this stay of execution for the moment, but I'm also seeing today that has been accelerated, I think, where they were looking at some time, maybe next week, on a decision from the Supreme Court on whether they will hear the case or not. It looks like the CFIA has filed its paperwork already on this, and the appellant, the farm owners, have about 2 days to file their response, and then a decision will come down from the Supreme Court. So you could get a decision on this in the next even 2-3 days, maybe by Monday. Then we'll see what happens out at the farm. They're clearly not leaving. It's going to be tense. It's going to be messy, I think. And it's going to be emotional for a lot of people, because people do, at this point, care more about those birds than human beings. I'm not surprised at all. I will share a story with you, and then we're going to move on to our Maverick Midnight Matinee feature tonight. When I was working in television, this goes back, oh my gosh, it's got to be 20 years, 15 years anyway. In any event, there was this story about all these dogs that had been killed. And someone found these dogs. It was the middle of winter. They found these dogs in a dumpster at a Highway 401 rest stop. It was near, I believe it was the one near Woodstock. So I was dispatched to go out there with a camera operator, a friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, to protect him from people who might freak out for no reason. Just direct all your anger, hostility, and emotions right here. Love, too, if you have any of that. That'd be nice. So off we go. And we were meeting a representative from the Humane Society, the SPCA there, for that region, who had been called out there as well. And then there was a police investigation as part of this. So we interviewed the police as well. And I went out, and the news director said to me, people are going to be upset if we show these dead dogs on TV, maybe. So he said, this is what he said. He said, so when you edit this story, choose the pictures and craft the content, I'm paraphrasing, in a way that your mother would be okay with it. And I went, okay, no problem. So I'm getting it, right? So he's like, yeah, some people are going to be sensitive to this stuff, so I have to be really careful. So I'll use my mom as my guide. What would my mom be okay with? So we shot these dogs, and we're kind of getting some wide shots, and the guy from the Humane Society was there, and he's pulling these dogs out, and they're frozen stiff. And I'm sorry if this is too gruesome for you, but it's reality. And he's holding the dogs up, and we're taking pictures, video of all of this to show how terrible this situation is and how these dogs were found in a dumpster at a truck stop. There had to be, maybe 20 of them. And they were laid out on the ground and we're taking video. Anyway, I put the story together. And so there's some of that footage made it into the story. and the phones went, the switchboard lit up like a Christmas tree. People are calling in. They are right upset. And I think this ran, right next to some story about a war where a whole bunch of people were killed in Lebanon or whatever, Beirut at the time, whatever it was. And, one of the wars around the world, Kosovo, I don't remember what year it was. Anyway, people are upset. We always had a rule of thumb. It was like, if you got one phone call, there are probably 100 more people that wanted to, but didn't. So the news director, nice guy, freaks, right? He's like, what the hell did you do? And I'm like, well, what? I told you to be careful about what you put on TV. And I said, well, you said to use pictures that my mom would be okay with. Yeah, exactly. I said, well, my mom would be okay with this. It's like, I was much younger at the time. And I learned a lesson. And I shouldn't be laughing because it was kind of a gruesome story. But they're dogs. They're not people. And I didn't know them personally. They weren't my pets, so I wasn't attached. And they were already dead. And they were frozen, which made it even kind of more gruesome. It's like, and I'm experiencing it firsthand. It's like right there in front of me. It's reality for me. But I think sometimes when it's video, when it's on television, it's even more graphic as video than it is in real life, because it's focused, it's framed, it's in your face. You can't get away from it if you're looking at the screen, right? In a way, it's more riveting, more shocking. But it again gave me perspective on all of this stuff. And I bring that to bear here with this ostrich story as well, because I realize that these are not human beings. They don't have rights the way the human beings or citizens do, although animal rights activists, and we have, I guess, a whole crop of new animal rights activists, so that the ostrich farm, formerly people concerned about people's rights, now they're concerned about animal rights. And before that, I think they were not in alignment with the animal rights groups at all because they were too woke. But now, with these ostriches, these folks are like, you got to save these ostriches or you're terrible. You're not even human. Well, okay. You can think of it that way if you want. But a lot of people died. Those 7,000 Russians died. Are you complaining about that? Do you care? Sometimes people seem to care about what's going on in Gaza. Do you care about the Ukrainians who have been killed or the civilians? That stuff washes over. We show pictures of that. They want to show these ostriches being culled in the worst way, because that is the photo op. They get photos, they get video of that, and they put that online. That'll never go away. Ever. That will haunt, that will undermine the Canadian government. That's what the intent is there. Forever. People will just be appalled. Yeah, but it goes on every day in abattoirs everywhere. Where do you think the KFC comes from? They don't have cameras in those places, because if they showed you the cows being slaughtered, you wouldn't go to McDonald's. A lot of people wouldn't, because you'd find it just a little too uncomfortable, too distasteful. If you saw them milking the cows, you might not drink the milk because of where it comes from. It's just because we're so desensitized from living in cities that we have lost touch with nature. We've lost touch with reality in a lot of cases, and we've lost our perspective on so many things, including this story, which is dividing people, and people are angry. People are pissed at me because I don't care enough about the ostriches. I care. I care about the chicken farmers too, and I care about the economy, and I care about stability. I care about fairness, and I try to look at the larger picture too. And I care about people who tell the truth, and I care when people lie. Don't like it. And I find a lot of things surrounding this story concerning. I've touched on some of it here again tonight. And I hope that gives you a little bit of balance. I totally get how the cull policy, the stamping out policy, is controversial because it's a problem for which there is no real solution at this point because we don't have a cure for the bird flu. So they're trying to manage it. But as I said the other night, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If the government doesn't do anything, they'll be accused of just letting it rip and being irresponsible that way. And if they try to manage it through this stamping out policy or whatever they're going to do, it doesn't matter what they do. They're going to be criticized. No good deed goes unpunished. Was it smart? Was it not smart? I've dealt with the CFIA in the past too as a journalist a number of times, and sometimes their policies are crazy. The emerald ash borer policy, when they set up the firewall around here, where they tried to stop the spread of that emerald ash borer, I think I've mentioned it in the past, that was a stupid policy too, but they tried. It was something they tried. It just didn't work. They spent a lot of money trying to stop the spread of that insect so that it wouldn't go further north into northern Ontario and northern Canada, other parts of the country, and destroy all the ash trees. It didn't work. I knew it wasn't going to work when I was covering it. They were out there trying their best, and there were protesters trying to stop them. And I was watching all this play out. They tried to cut down, what they did is they came here and they tried to cut down every ash tree between Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie to create like a firewall, a strip where there were no ash trees left at all. And then they imposed a ban on transporting ash, any ash wood, beyond the firewall. You couldn't take anything north. You could come this way, but you couldn't go that way. And I was watching all this play out, and they were going onto private property and using government authority to chop down people's ash trees on their property. And there was compensation offered, but people were still upset because some of these trees were really old and beautiful, and it's, rural area, farmland, and people didn't want these trees cut down. A lot of people didn't. Others were okay with it. It was controversial. And I was watching it, and I said, yeah, it's not going to work. And they went through, and the CFIA did the whole thing. People were real upset about it. Oh, I think a couple of people got arrested, protesters at that time too. Well, within 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, probably 3, after the crews were done chopping down all the trees, the emerald ash borer was found further north in Ontario, and it didn't work. And it was only about 3 weeks later. It was crazy. It was a stupid policy, but they felt, I guess, from pressure from probably the lumber industry, forestry industry, the lumber industry, that they had to do something to protect these trees or whatever. Anyway, they tried. It failed. Money was spent. People had summer jobs cutting down trees. And I used to say, if the emerald ash borer doesn't get your tree, the CFIA will. That was the reality of that too. So the trees died. We'll see what happens with the ostriches. I don't take no joy in it, but it is reality, and you have to just deal with it. Because we've got a problem. It's called bird flu. And right now, it's all being driven by emotion and lies. I hope I'm getting people a little bit closer to the truth tonight. It doesn't mean all the answers to the problem are here, because there is no answer. There's just trying to manage it. Try and keep that in mind. And let's hope that everybody just stays safe out there this weekend as the big protest at the Universal Ostrich Farm ramps up. I think they're having a concert out there again this weekend too. I don't know if I'd take my kids out there though, especially when somebody seems to be, well, who knows how or why, but hay bales getting caught on fire and birds dying, and yeah, wouldn't take my dog out there either. Dogs can get the bird flu. I wouldn't take my canine. But that's me. Do as you will. Okay, let's take a little break. We're going to come back on the other side with tonight's Maverick MidKnight Matinee feature presentation. Rocky Jones, Space Ranger. It's a feature-length film. Crash of the Moons from 1954. I'll leave you with this to cap off the newscast. If you want to stay with us for Maverick MidKnight Matinee, you have to get off YouTube. Come on over to Rumble or one of our other platforms, Twitch, or wherever you want to go. And we'll commence with tonight's feature presentation on the other side. What am I going to run? What am I going to leave you with tonight to cap off the cast? Oh, let's just do something simple, shall we? Here we go. Since I was talking about dogs, you got it. Here's Free Dog.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom and running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains, he's running through fields, breaking all the legs. Now the night's getting cold, the sky's turning gray. But Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling alone, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the